carry
Yeah. So yeah, my work is quite varied because I first and foremost I work in the school. So I teach individually. So I teach piano and organ to students from the ages of 5, really up until 25. So it's quite a large range that I
Yeah.
teach. So I do that here at school as well as my kind of boarding kind of pastoral care here.
Yeah.
Alongside that, I also do one-to-one tutoring at the University of St Andrews, where I teach film music production.
Oh, nice.
So everything from the very beginning to like creating the idea, to sketching it out, to orchestrating it, to kind of transferring it from Logic onto kind of Sibelius and
Yeah.
preparing it for recording sessions.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy doing that. I've got a few students that I teach one-to-one, and it's ranging from film music production to electronic music production. So basically, everything from like how to use a DAW, how to optimize your workflow in a DAW,
Yeah.
yeah, that's always great fun.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, also I've got all my freelance work.
Yeah.
So scoring for film, TV,
Yeah.
documentary, short films, and I spend a lot of my kind of evenings when it's quiet. That's kind of my production hours,
Yeah. Doing your
and I
content
spend
and yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I do a lot of behind the scenes, and yeah, I love it. It's great fun. It's so lovely to great work with varied directors,
Yeah.
and just to create something magical with people. Working with like-minded musicians and creatives to create
Yeah.
something really special, and
Yeah.
that's what I love about it. I love the process of doing that.
Yeah.
And so in a nutshell, those are combined my three things. So my freelance film and TV composition work,
Yeah.
my tutoring and teaching at University of St Andrews, and my work here in St Andrews in the school,
Yeah.
my kind of one-to-one teaching that I do. So
Nice.
it's quite a varied portfolio,
Yeah.
but it certainly keeps me busy,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the main thing about it is I love what I do.
Yeah,
So
that's the main thing, really. In terms of you say you do like one-to-one sessions with these kind of this door work that you do, I guess it's
mhm.
quite rewarding at the same time because each composer will bring something new and will have like a slightly different approach to their composition. So I mean that must keep it fresh in a way because everyone's gonna see it differently as well. So no one's musical approach is the same, is it? And yeah, that must be.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
And it's so great to hear people with different backgrounds
Yeah.
and to experience that. And I think, I've got a mixture of students that I have. Some have no idea what a DAW is and
Yeah.
have never used a DAW and never kind of keyed in things
Yeah.
through kind of like through a MIDI keyboard. Some have had really good experience and just want to kind of hone that kind
Yeah.
of, you just develop the kind of production skills. And it's great because I have a large variety of different people that I teach. And it's weird because for me, there's always things that, you obviously learn as you go along. But I think you you sort of consolidate your learning through teaching,
Yeah.
and you become more kind of confident in it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I actually know how to do this and that. So it's kind of good because it gives you kind of consolidation. But for me personally, education is so key. Because I've had the privilege to have a really very exciting musical upbringing, and I really want to give back
Yeah.
to musicians and to give people opportunities and just to really pass on my knowledge. I know I've got so much more to learn, and I
Yeah.
know that I've got kind of some of the holes in my
Don't
knowledge,
we
but
all,
still,
Yeah.
but still, I love doing that, and seeing the kind of satisfaction on their faces, their
Yeah.
faces light up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I wanted to do this for such a long
Yeah.
time, and it's come to fruition. So I like to kind of translate what they have in their heads and kind of train it in their ear, train in their
Yeah.
brain, and kind of put that onto a door. And I
Yeah.
think it's the most, I think teaching, it is quite, it can be tough at times,
Yeah.
but it's a very satisfying and rewarding process.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I was going to say the word rewarding, but you got
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think this door to school business is something that's very overlooked at times as well, isn't it? You don't really see it when you see a like a finished product, and
Mm.
obviously, a lot of these big film composers will have like a session, and then it's up to like a orchestrator to make it into
Mm.
playable parts, but you don't tend to sort of see that, and you just see the finished products, but it's such a
Mm.
important aspect as well.
No,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think that's crucial because, you know, obviously as a freelance composer, you don't really have assistance at this kind of stage. You're kind of building up your portfolio,
yeah,
and you have to learn things quite fast, and you have to be able to kind of do everything in a way to some kind of
yeah,
extent. So I had to basically, like, I learned Logic myself.
yeah,
I didn't go to any kind of film school. I just did my BMOS degree at University of Aberdeen, and I basically accumulated everything myself. So based on trial and error, the more I use it, the more comfortable I felt with it.
yeah,
Um, and um, and yeah, no, I think it's definitely something overlooked. I think perhaps because it's quite a meticulous process, people kind of
yeah,
like don't want to leave it to the assistants
yeah,
to do all that kind of stuff. But I love it because, you know, the best thing, Sam, is when you have like a Logic session which someone
yeah,
has sent you, and they want you to prepare that for
yeah,
orchestral session or something. So, for example, I conducted and prepared a session at Abbey Road last
yeah,
year, and my friend, he sent me all the quantized stuff in Logic, all the quantized regions, and I began basically extrapolating everything
yeah,
from Logic and putting it into Sibelius and just making it look neat and everything.
yeah,
And I would definitely say that I'm a perfectionist. I
yeah,
do like to make sure that everything looks neat.
yeah,
But I think, especially when it gets to kind of studio sessions, time is crucial. And you know, I prepared stuff for the NFO a couple of times, and I can see, you only have like 3 hours of
yeah.
recording time, and that 3 hours goes very, very
Oh yeah.
quickly.
Was it
I
you
mean,
did
you could
Louis?
probably say
No,
that.
no,
Yeah,
no, because you did Louis
yeah,
session at the NFO, and he was the same
yeah,
day as mine, because I just had like an hour session, but it just goes, and
yep.
then there's like 10 minutes changeover, and there it was just over so quickly, and then in that
Mhm.
time you're obviously wanting to thank all the musicians and
Mhm.
try and make a few contacts as well, but
Mhm.
equally they need next people, and it's like,
Mhm.
right, go go
Yeah,
go, you're
yeah,
go go
yeah.
go. But
Exactly,
that's like the
exactly.
professional world, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's funny you should say about the self-taught, the logic stuff as well, because I've often found that if I do have an issue or something, you'll find that someone else has had the same issue. So I just go onto Google and just type in exactly what it is, and
It's a
then you'll
magical
find
thing,
forum.
Google.
There's loads of forums and stuff, isn't there?
Hmm.
Where you'll
Hmm.
find loads of people had the same issue. I don't know if you can see. I've got a Logic for Dummies book there as
Yeah,
well.
I could see that. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it's appearing at the
Yeah,
back.
along with uh, home improvement and home recording. So it's this, yeah. I think it's very much a um learning yourself thing, but
Hmm.
you sort of pick up these little tricks and stuff
Hmm.
as well. Um, in terms of you say translating like a session that someone's given you
Hmm.
into a score, does it get quite complicated then? Because I presume with like a session they might give like legato strings and pizzicato strings and
Hmm.
legato strings all on different parts. How does that work with
Hmm.
then for someone listening to this who wants to get into using like a I was gonna say doing the door to score process, how would you go
Hmm.
about putting that into like a single line, or do you go down each section in turn?
Yeah, well, it just depends because some people use key switches, and I remember I think Louis used some key switches, and
Yeah,
it didn't kind of translate in the final score. And it was like I had to add the pizzicatos
yeah,
in manually. But yeah, no, I basically what I do is I export the score first, so I
yeah,
quantize everything, make sure it's yeah, and then what I do is I import it in Sibelius, and
yeah,
then basically do a few clicks, make sure the layout looks kind of okay, a very
yeah,
rough draft version, and then I basically just kind of condense everything. So if there's parts which don't feature for like a long time, I
yeah,
hide the bars. And most of the time, the articulations come through.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
if
that's
it's
good.
pizzicatos, they do come through.
Yeah,
And then I can just add like a dot or something, or
yeah,
type pits or like arco, that kind of stuff. I can add that kind of articulation, in the session. And also what I do is I also listen to the MP3 of the file, and I can
yeah,
hear all the articulations in my head. So I can hear like a flautando, I can hear like a sul punt, or all these different kind of detailed expressions and
Yeah.
articulations. I can put them in the score, and there's easy ways how to do that,
Yeah.
and it's generally quite quick.
Yeah.
But like, the main thing is getting the big score first, and then putting the big signatures in.
Yeah.
I love seeing those big signatures.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
the
That
best thing.
like 4/4 across the whole.
Yeah. And then obviously, once that's kind of been locked, and I've passed that on to the composer, then I obviously create scores, the parts for each score, and the scores are quite meticulous. Yeah, the parts are quite meticulous as well, because you want to make sure they look really good. The staves are all lined up, so
Yeah.
it can be an engraving nightmare, which is probably
Yeah.
why which is why composers kind of seldom do that.
Yeah.
It's mainly kind of the orchestrator or the copyist job to do that. But I think for me, I seek so much pleasure in doing it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think seeing the process from starting from beginning, from like the score being unreadable, and having everything on Logic, and putting everything into Sibelius and having it as a PDF, I think it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Uh,
I bet you get into
yeah,
such like a I was going to say routine, into such a rhythm of
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
I think it's one of those things that when I do it, I find it really hard to start, because it just be a bit daunting, but then you just get into a bit of a rhythm, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden 4 hours is gone, and you're like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, time for bed.
yeah. Yeah, no, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it can take a long time. So like all the time lapses I've done on my Instagram channel is basically like maybe an hour or two's work condensed
Yeah.
in 30 seconds. I don't actually work that fast. But
Oh, I wish we could.
yeah, I know. But I mean, I think, when it comes to these scores, I make sure that they look really, really good.
Yeah.
And when preparing stuff for a recording session, you need to make sure everything's on there. And
Yeah.
as we we're talking about kind of time, passing of time, any kind of question in a recording session is like money. You
Yeah.
need to make sure that you have everything on the score, everything's kind of laid out there properly, everything's legible, and there's no
Yeah.
questions asked. Like everything is there, tempos,
Yeah.
everything. And I think having everything there is crucial,
Yeah.
and that allows a kind of smooth recording session and the smooth process,
Yeah.
kind of as a result.
Yeah. Do you have like, I guess like a template then, or something that makes it easier to like transfer over then, to sort of give you, or was it just for a fresh each? I guess it must be fresh each time, because each
Yeah,
session might be a bit different. Is that
yeah.
um
I do start off on a fresh start each time, just because each project has different
yeah,
instrumentation,
instrumentation.
different orchestration,
Yeah.
different kind of feel to a different layout. So I just generally start from scratch.
Yeah.
But I do have like a typesetting where, I like certain fonts, for example, and I do like a cover sheet in a certain font,
Yeah.
and then the biography in certain fonts as well.
Yeah,
So
you
I
pick
like
up your own
to
style, don't you? That's the thing.
yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah. So I think it's, I can't remember what it's called as space. I think it's like textile or something,
Yeah.
or house style. House style. That's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think I've been
yeah,
like the one of the first times I went on Spayless, and you spend about half an hour going through all the different house styles,
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at all
yeah.
the really disgusting ones. Like, yeah, definitely not going to use that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think I like changing, because I think the ones that Sibelius sort of defaults are especially dull. Like it's sort of, they kind of takes me back to like GCSE music, where it was in that
Yeah,
kind of Times New Roman font
yeah.
as well. This
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
GCSE.
I always have it like saved on like a cover sheet and stuff. So I save
Yeah,
the text, and then I just copy and paste it from each project, so I don't have to type it out each time, and then just change the text as I go. So
yeah.
yeah.
Just for the audience, in terms of just backtracking a bit, you said you talked about key switches as
Mhm.
well. What could you maybe explain what you mean by that, in terms of having like a sample and having key switches for different
Yeah. So
um
like on a MIDI keyboard, say you have like a multi-sample library which has different articulations
yeah,
in it, you can basically assign a certain key. So say, for example, a C4 is middle C.
yeah,
So if you go even below C, what is it? C, well, anyway, C or two octaves below, you can assign that C, for
yeah,
example, to be legato.
yeah,
And then a D above that, it could be like a staccato. And so you
yeah,
can do that all live. in actual recording, like when you're recording in your DAW. And so you can assign as many articulations as you want, and then you can just you can set up parameters in I think Logic. You can do that, which also saves time because you're not faffing around between using string longs all the time and then staccatos. You can just do everything in one whole MIDI region, and then you can then obviously translate that. You can extrapolate that in a score. But it helps with workflow, very much so, because again, you're not kind of creating a new kind of channel specifically for pizzicati. You're just using everything in one go.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting, actually. I've sort of messed around with that a bit, but I probably need to do it a bit more. But I think it's all a bit trial and error, isn't it? Exactly. So in terms of Logic, was Logic always your DAW that you went to, or have you experienced? Yeah. No, that's really cool.
Yeah, so I use a mixture of DAWs. I've had to learn a Reaper bit due to my kind of projects at university, which is great. Reaper is, by the way, a great DAW. It's free. And people can this is my sales pitch. But Reaper's a great DAW for anyone starting out. It's easy, accessible. I think you pay £60 just for like a perpetual license, and that's it. Like, it's a one-time buy. But I think once I got, I knew about Logic quite for a long time, and it's when I first bought my MacBook in 2017, which is still alive. It's like Intel Core.
I've got mine from my 18th. Well, I got it for my 18th birthday, so it must be the one. So it's gonna be so 2013 model, I think it was. And, I think the only thing I use it for now is like literally looking at PDFs because that's all it can handle. It sounds like a plane taking off. It's like,
mine does. It's like it roasts at like 80 degrees Celsius or something. It's just crazy.
But
I bought my first MacBook, which is my first kind of powerful computer which I bought, and I knew about Logic for a while, and I use GarageBand very kind of in a very simple way, like on an iPad or an iPhone, but it was not the one I wanted. And then Logic was kind of the next step up, and Logic literally changed everything. And I could create incredible scores from a touch of a button, from anywhere, remotely, in a studio. And it's I've been kind of working in Logic since then, doing my scores, my orchestration, my mixing and mastering in Logic. And it's been my go-to. I think it's unlike Pro Tools is quite complex. I'm kind of getting my head around that at the moment. But I think Logic is very accessible. It's very user-friendly, and you can just find everything just in the DAW. And the sample libraries it comes up with, the presets are brilliant. I mean, you can do so much with that. Of course, the strings don't sound as good. So I complement with Spitfire Audio, different sample libraries like that. But Logic has been my go-to.
It's funny you mentioned Spitfire Audio as well, because they got all those free labs as well, samples as well, which are just incredible as well. I spent about an hour yesterday just going through all those like the experimental ones that they got, and some of them are so odd, but you could use them for like a opening scene of some like a crime drama or something like that. Just
absolutely,
or just some like soundscapey stuff. And I know that you recently did like a collaboration as well with them recently. That must have been really exciting. And just want to speak a bit more about that, really.
I mean, it was a bit surreal how it all happened, but as a kind of Spitfire Audio user myself, I wanted to collaborate with Spitfire Audio for a wee while, and I reached out to a couple of representatives both in the UK and the US, and they put me in touch with the Spitfire team. And I had a chat with one of the team, and she gave me a brief. Well, first she talked about about the sample libraries that are coming out, and as the pianist, that's the piano is where I start everything, where I compose, improvise at, orchestrate at.
I know we'll talk about this, but just because you say pianist, like your piano reels that you do are just incredible.
Oh, thank you.
But
Thank you.
I won't
Thank
go
you.
into it too much, otherwise we'll segue to something else. We'll carry on with this.
Yeah. No,
Um,
yeah. So and then she said we have the sample library which is embargoed, which is coming out in June.
yeah,
And now obviously everyone knows it's the BBC Symphony Orchestra piano, which is a
yeah,
Steinway Model D piano. And I said to the Spitfire team that, I'm a pianist, I love the piano. And she said, how about you do a kind of a demo for us with the piano? And I said, I would love to.
yeah,
And I composed a small little piece, around 2 minutes long. And yeah, it was good fun. It was really good fun. It was actually really interesting because the first piece which I composed, I thought, right, no, this is not gonna work, because when you do these kind of showcases and demos, you need the sample library to be like what they call a
yeah. The
hero
main
library.
focal point.
That
Yeah,
yeah. So, and then the first piece I did was like, this is not going to pass. The piano is too far in the mix.
yeah,
I was like, right, I'm not going to submit this. I'm going to keep this as up on my portfolio, but I'm going to create something different. So I started all again from scratch, and then I came up with this melody in D major. It goes da 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 dum, and then it's 3/4, and someone is almost like a waltz.
yeah,
And I wrote that. I put that idea down on in Logic, and it all went from there.
yeah,
And I just kind of orchestrated it, made it more
yeah,
full, made it nicer, and then Spitfire
yeah.
said, "Yes, we would love to share it."
It's amazing, and I think when people should check this out when you look at the recording that Anthony did. It's not just you playing; it's always almost telling a story, because you can see you live doing it. You can see the like this score reel at the same time, and yeah, you can see all these different aspects as well. It's not just you recording a piece. It's all these different story elements coming in as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it was really it's just amazing, honestly.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and you do these piano reels as well, which I think is just a fantastic way to connect with your audience as well. And
Yeah.
it it's just crazy to see where it's come, because I think I was thinking about this the other day when I sort of first got in contact with you, and I think it was just over a year ago, and we did that like a quick 10 interview thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're about to hit like 1,000 subscribers at that point, but now you're at almost 3,000. It's like, why has it gone? Like, it's just like, it's just crazy. And no, it's amazing to see, and just this journey that you're going on.
Yeah.
In
Thank you.
terms of
Appreciate that.
the piano reels that you've
Mm-hmm.
done, is that a series that's carrying on? Because I know you do like various, like, see, I was gonna say seasons, but that's like a TV, but like, you know what I mean. Have you got another
Yeah, like a series.
season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually got to do one more. I've got to do Louis' request, which is I think the penultimate or final request. I paused them over the summer because it was my holiday and
Yeah.
stuff. Uh, but
Everyone needs a holiday.
oh no, oh,
Yeah.
hands down.
Yeah.
No, I started creating these piano reels without really thinking people would, interact with them. I just, like, with my time lapses, Sam, I just love to share what I do.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the most
it's,
important thing, isn't it? That
yeah,
you kind of had to forget about the views or how much
yeah.
coverage, you're just simply doing it
Yeah.
because you love
Yeah.
doing it.
For
That's
me, it's just for the love, the pleasure, and that's it. And if people, engage with that, excellent, is all an added bonus. And I think, again, what we were saying about kind of exposure and about social media, I think the more you post about what you do, the behind the scenes, how you compose, what your workflow is, I think more people are more likely to get in touch with you.
yeah.
And with the piano reels, I may be doing a series 4, I think, series 3 or 4, I think I've done 2 already. But it's that, when I do these piano reels, it's my time when I can spend time with myself and the piano. It's very sacred time to me. And like every single Saturday, I open up the music school here at school for all the students, and I just go into the auditorium, open up the grand piano, the Bösendorfer that we have, and I literally spend 2 to 3 hours there. I start composing, writing stuff, ideas down, and that's where I record my piano reel
That's the thing
requests.
that people don't see, that you you do like a minute and a half or whatever, it's not,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
put 3 hours of it on.
But
Yeah,
but the thing is, you should see how many takes it takes me to get
yeah,
a perfect take. There's about 50 videos
yeah,
for one of those videos. So people see the perfect cut off
yeah,
the actual
yeah,
reel because I either make a slip in the piano part or I say something like it
yeah,
doesn't fit, and I managed to hit the nail on the head. Okay,
yeah,
this is the 100th take. Let's get this right.
yeah. I think I said
Um,
this on my last one of these podcasts that I did, that I know various stuff goes wrong. I think a picture fell off the wall at one point, and it's just like I need to make like a bloopers reel of just like all the different things that
oh,
happen. Yeah, technical
yeah,
difficulties or whatever.
my
Yeah,
bloopers have to be like 15 plus,
yeah.
unfortunately, because I'm like, oh, damn.
Oh no.
Uh, but they're hilarious. They're hilarious, but they're really good fun to do.
Yeah,
And again, I love sharing my love and passion for music, and people reach out, that's wonderful. And I think, yeah, I'll keep doing the piano reels. I don't know if I'll do a series 3 or 4 yet, because I know that this part of this year's gonna be quite busy,
yeah,
but you never know. Maybe every single Saturday from maybe middle of September I may reinstate or maybe
yeah,
restart these.
definitely.
But
Yeah,
it's good fun to do. It's good fun to do.
yeah, yeah. In terms of the piano reels that you do
Mhm.
these duet videos as well, that it's like a, for the non-Instagram savvy, it's like I want to say, if I say play along, it sounds a bit corny, but it's not corny. It's basically like they do a version of
Mhm.
like a
Mhm.
an original recording.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
as you can maybe explain a bit more about that element, and if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course.
Um,
So basically, there was I once saw this video on Instagram where I mean, there's lots of musicians doing these kind of duet with
yeah,
me sort of reels, and I thought, you know what? Let's try and see. Let's try this and see what happens. And so I composed this small little. I actually have it somewhere. In fact, wait, yeah, I have it somewhere here.
oh,
I
that's
wrote
really strange
down
how your hand like it, like warps into the background.
warps into the background. No,
Yeah,
yeah. So I composed this small little piece, which is like an E major. It
yeah,
was probably about, I don't know how many bars long, and I opened up the floor and I said, here is a small piece. I gave the harmonies of the piece, when it changes, where the kind of
yeah,
harmonic shifts are. And yeah, I think about 4 or 5 people actually remixed the reel
yeah.
and added their own stuff on top of it, which was incredible. I didn't even expect, it kind of, there was a few days where nothing happened. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not going to do anything. But it was just all for bits of fun, I think. And
Um,
the reaction from other people was incredible. And I think what was really amazing was each person added something different
yeah,
to their reel, and some added like a full orchestra. Like Alita did an incredible arrangement of
yeah,
it, and then Michael did something, and then Yasmin,
yeah,
and then Sergey. They all like added something unique
yeah,
to that remix, and I thought, why not? And I think I'll definitely be doing something quite similar,
yeah.
maybe in the next kind of
That'd be
month or two.
great. Honestly, I think the way you composed it as well made it very open as well to interpretation.
Mm.
Yeah, which is,
Keeping it
yeah,
simple,
exactly,
because
exactly.
if you have too many kind of harmonic shifts, then like, especially like, what I
It
was going to do
restricts
at
it as well,
first,
doesn't it? Yeah,
yeah, what I was going to do first is actually just send it out without any kind of the harm. Like, I added some captions and stickers, like of what chord it was, like C sharp minor,
yeah,
E major, A major. So I highlighted the harmony, but if I didn't do anything, it'd be like, oh, but I gave them kind of instructions of what harmony to use,
yeah,
so they can use the harmony or the kind of notes
yeah,
familiar to that scale.
yeah.
And yeah, no, it's good fun.
And I really guess that's to this element of community as well. It just brings all these people from all over together.
Collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration and community as well.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And you do those ones when people are giving you like some melody notes to play around with as well, which are really cool as
They're
well.
good fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're good fun. It's like, give me like a chord sequence or something to
yeah.
improvise on. Some of them like so
Some of them are
juicy.
really odd as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Though I think there was one that Alita gave me, which was like 10 chords long. Which I thought was amazing, but it sounded very much like something like James Howard would
Yeah.
compose.
Yeah.
And but like with my harmony, I always love, you know, improvising with added chords. That's kind of
Yeah.
my musical voice. I like added second, added ninths,
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. And then when I see like a chord, if I read like C major, for example, I won't just play C to G. I'll play the E and a D as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cluster chord. I love those kind of textures.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
And I guess you'll find that certain chords will work together because they have the same scale notes, some of the same scale
Yes.
notes. So
Yeah.
which is good, but can create some interesting colors as well, which is really cool. I know that you said you'd been on holiday as well, and I was just wondering if you got any like holiday inspirations for any musical ideas or anything in the future, any places that you went to that might have
Yeah.
inspired you to create some pieces of music, if that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, whenever I travel anywhere, Sam, whether you know, whether I fly somewhere or go to a different country, I'm always inspired by the places I go, and that kind of fuels my creativity, fuels my inspiration. And you know, as you know, I went to Spain about a week and a half ago, and you know, there was this one melody which I was humming on the streets. Like we were in, I think Logroño, which is like north east of Madrid by like an hour and a half. And there was this one melody, this one string melody which I had in my head. It was, I'll tell you what it was. I'm not going to pitch it correctly, but it was A B G
I mean, that
sharp
was an
A. Yeah, was that an A?
yeah.
Well, then
Yeah.
we I pitched an A, but yeah. Anyway, so I pitched. I heard this melody, da 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 dum, and I heard it in the strings, and I heard a voice singing it. And basically, what I did is I had to write this idea down. So what I did on the way back, on my flight on the way back home, I always carry some manuscript paper with
Yeah, I
me
was gonna say, I hope you
everywhere
got
I
some
go.
of it, like in your back
Oh
pocket.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So what I did was I wrote out the piano sketch as I heard it in my head, and then I orchestrated it. So I harmonized it. I basically made a string quartet out of it. I don't know if I have it here. But you know, it's crazy because this melody came out of nowhere. I was like, right, I have to capture this because if I don't capture this idea, it will go. So I wrote it down, and then, you know, it sounds like something you would hear in a nature documentary, something kind of big, epic, expansive, cinematic. And the weird thing is I could hear the whole orchestra in my head. I could hear how the horns would play, how the strings would play, the kind of sonorities, you know, in terms of orchestral sound color that I would use as well. It was just like all in my head. I was like, right, okay, at some point I need to create this into an orchestral piece. But it all starts with one idea. And I think I actually did a video, I think a couple of weeks ago, where I said, you know, I took this one idea on the piano and I orchestrated it. And I, you know,
I remember that actually.
Yeah, and
Because
it
it
all
was your
starts from one
process.
idea.
You did, you it all starts with one idea, exactly.
Yeah.
I often get that, but it'll be at a really inconvenient time, like lying in bed at 1 a.m, and you're like, right, I'm gonna have to get out of bed and write it down,
Same.
or I'll write it down in my notes page on my phone, and then come back to it tomorrow and be like, what what is this? This is just
well, I'll tell you what, like the composition I did for Spitfire was exactly that. I was like laying in bed like late at night, and I was just like dozing away. It's like, and then I heard this. Well, I no, actually, no, it was the day after, and I woke up and I heard this melody in my head.
And
I literally went to my door and wrote it down, and that's how it all, you know. So I think it's you know, inspiration comes from in the most unexpected of places and unexpected of times, but I think it's so important to capture that inspiration whilst you have it, because one thing, when I was younger, I used to improvise a lot on the piano, but the thing which I didn't do was record it or notate it. Because I didn't really know how to notate it, because this was when I was like 12, 13. I didn't have that kind of skill set to notate it as I heard it, but to kind of record it, and then kind of, I didn't know about Logic at that stage. And you know, one thing I've learned is, you know, once you have that idea, capture it, because
capture it then.
you never know when that will be useful for a certain cue for a film
Yeah.
or for a certain documentary. You can have that in your archive. It's like you can pull it up. I think it's what Lorne Balfe, I think, said. He has this kind of large collection of music that he's used or is kind of not being used in a film, and he archives it into different sections.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I do. Is like, if I don't use this for a cue, or if it doesn't work, I just archive it under like emotional music, and I get up at the key signature, the time signature, that kind of thing, in the folder. So it's always kind of archived if I need it.
It's funny you mentioned Lorne Balfe, because it's he's done I don't know if you've seen, but he's actually released a few things on Twitter where you can look at his like sessions as well. Some of the
I
sessions
haven't
that he's
seen
done.
that.
Yeah. Because it came up on my YouTube because I think Dorico
Mm-hmm.
had done like a walkthrough of like doing this door to score business.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd taken like a one of Lorne Balfe's I think it was Dark Materials actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um awesome piece. But it was like accessible for anyone, and you could just go on and look at this session, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
it was just mega. The amount of things that they have on it is just crazy. I'm just trying to think about what you just said then. You were talking about the process of it all starts with one idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really important to capture it when you have it. I used to do that at uni as well. I used to go to the piano and press record for 45 minutes, and 42
Mm-hmm.
of those 45 minutes will be crap. But you might find like an idea in there, and you can bookmark that idea for
Mm-hmm.
what how many years down the line, and you might come back to it and it might be suitable for something.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Exactly.
um in terms of your we'll talk about doors just then. In terms of your samples and stuff that you're using at the moment, do you have any particular favorite samples that you're using? I know that's a very broad question, but maybe you could name like one or two that you're enjoying at the moment,
Yeah,
or
well, I use a lot of Spitfire stuff. I love the intimate strings
yeah,
as part of their original libraries. I think it's great, and it's quite affordable. I think it's £29.
yeah,
But I love it because it gives you real exquisite flautando strings, and it gives you conlenos, it gives
yeah,
you consorts, shorts. It's a really lovely,
yeah,
compact string library, and it's one of the first libraries I actually bought, I think, to replace the shocking strings and Logic. And I was like, I need something substantial here. So
yeah,
that's a sample library which I use quite a lot in actually all of my compositions. But I use a few patches from East West, from Composer Cloud. They've got really good sample libraries that
yeah.
they have.
I had them at uni. The East
Yeah,
West ones, they're great, and
yeah.
the Goliath. Is it the Goliath sounds? The
Yeah, you got
yeah,
Goliath, you got a
yeah,
storm drum,
yeah,
all these different
yeah,
things. I think I've got probably about 1 terabyte
yeah.
of samples on that.
Yeah, I've just got like a hard drive plugged in with everything on because I can't
Yeah.
store it on this computer because
Oh no, that like one sample, like one library is like 25 gigabytes. Is like massive,
yeah.
So
I think the symphonic piano that Spitfire did, the BBC symphony one that they did, I
mhm.
think that was like 26 gigabytes for one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's just
That
crazy.
was
Yeah,
big, but
yeah,
yeah, it is quite a large sample library, and I loved using that. I think
yeah,
what was great about that one is, you could change different mic positions, and you can create your own sound, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
could create it either far or near, and you can really kind of synthesize and create your own textures with that, which I think was really, really
yeah.
great.
I think that's the
Uh,
thing. You don't just when you get a Spitfire sample, you don't just get the sound. You get all these different things that you can do.
mhm,
You can
mhm.
adjust like the audience depth as well on some of them.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
how close they are to
yeah,
the sound, which is really cool.
yeah,
And you just
yeah.
you lose yourself in it, and you'll just spend half an hour
Hmm.
messing
Hmm.
around with one sample, and it's yeah. you end
Yeah.
up going down a rabbit hole. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I Spitfire and East West, a couple of sample companies that I use, but to some extent, I like to kind of limit myself as to how many sample libraries I use.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I don't have templates of this. Well, I do have a couple of templates, but I like to use what I already have, like the tools
Yeah.
I have. So I use a lot of the Logic presets,
Yeah.
but I manipulate them a lot. I add effects to them. I create different instruments. I sample them, create instruments within instruments. So
Yeah.
I create basically a whole different sound. It's almost like sound design in a
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
But I like to use the tools which I already have to create the sound which I would like. So so I use a kind of mixture of using presets that I've edited, morphed, synthesized, and mix them with sample
Yeah.
libraries. So it's almost like a hybrid kind of approach.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's what I guess people need to appreciate for musicians is people experiment as well. It's such a important thing to experiment and not be afraid to
absolutely.
try something that might not work, but you might
Mm-hmm.
also create something that's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful at the same time. Yeah, it's funny you should say about templates as well, because that's what I spent the time doing yesterday. Because for
Mm-hmm.
some reason it wasn't letting me display like the score. Like I double clicked on like the MIDI region,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't displaying the score for some reason. So I had to completely restart and just started a new fresh
Oh.
template, which was really good. I'm just looking down at my list of things that I have to cover. In terms of your projects and your favorite scores, and I know we talked about scores and whatnot. Are there any particular scores that you're listening to at the moment that? Oh, I'm putting you on the spot here, aren't I?
It's tough. It's
that
tough. I don't know. Like I have this large Spotify playlist which I listen to all the
yeah,
time. But yeah, I mean, recently I've been digging a lot into Stephen Price. I love Stephen Price's work,
yeah,
especially for like nature documentaries. And yeah, I've been watching lots of new releases on Netflix. I think
yeah.
there was one. I'm going to give a big shout out to Nanita Desai here because she did an
The
incredible score. Well,
deep breath.
two scores. She did,
Yeah.
yeah. The is it Deepest Breath or Longest Breath?
I think it's. I don't want to get it wrong. I know
Yeah,
what you mean though.
but I literally I love that, and Tristan Noon did the orchestration for that project. But her scores are incredible, especially I think is it 14 Peaks she did on Netflix.
She's done
That
quite a
was
few different
incredible.
Netflix things. So yeah,
Yeah, that's brilliant. So I love to have the kind of that exposure to new music. But yeah, my listening is kind of like Hans Zimmer,
yeah,
Thomas Newman kind of area. But yeah, any kind of new nature documentaries, because like what I'd love to do is a score nature documentary. That's one of
yeah,
my dreams I would love to accomplish
yeah.
one day.
I could honestly see
Uh,
you doing that because I know that you did that a few months ago. Is that the four composers with the almost a nature documentary,
yes,
and
yeah.
that was incredible. Honestly, it felt like I was just. It wasn't just a composition though, because you lose yourself in it. It felt like I was like fully immersed
Mhm,
in it, and
mhm,
this um and you listen to something and it feels hot because it was like
mhm,
desert line. You can't
mhm,
describe it, but
mm,
it sounds dry, like because it's like it was like a dry environment, but
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
describe that. You just have to hear it. Because
yeah,
yeah, no, I could totally see you doing that 100%.
yeah,
Um, I'm thinking that I think there must be another blue planet. I'm not saying there must be another, but I was just there must be.
yeah.
I'm just thinking because I think I just thinking that there must be another blue planet or another. There must be another planet Earth,
Well,
and that'll give
hopefully,
me some creative
hopefully, yeah,
inspiration. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh.
I think the one thing which I did, specifically to Genius Panthro, the nature documentary which I
Yeah.
scored that Brian from the
Remember the
Q-Tube gave
name
me the
of it?
opportunity
Yeah,
to,
I couldn't remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one thing which I think is really important, and one thing we shouldn't underestimate as composers, is the power of silence. Like
Yeah.
obviously, you know, you want to kind of underscore, you want to create this kind of big, you know, music to accompany every single moment.
Yeah.
But I think what I do, well, I think what's really important is the incorporation of silence and how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
And you know, there was a gap, I think, in the first. So in that particular clip, there was two kind of sections. There was the first section, which is kind of the introduction, where it's like percussion, savannah, you know,
Yeah.
introducing the kind of themes and ideas. And then the second part was kind of this epic part, which started just after the title reveal, where the line came up, and it starts with this cello melody, da, 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 and then you got dum 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 dum. So you have this kind of epic percussion section. So you know, I left maybe about 2-3 seconds of silence just because I felt the transition needed time to breathe, and
Yeah.
also the voiceover and the dialogue to come through.
Exactly. That's what I was going to
And
say.
so
You need to be able to
yeah,
respect
so
that.
just
Yeah.
just let it kind of there, and then introduce new theme and idea,
Yeah.
and it just gives, as the audience, it gives them time to just reset, just kind of absorb everything that's happened before, and then hear this new section.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, silence in composition is really important, especially in film, because one thing you don't want to do is score the whole thing,
Yeah.
because I mean, I think anyone can score anything, like a
Yeah.
whole thing, but I think it's important to have, you know, control that and to allow the dialogue to come through. And
Yeah.
obviously that's a kind of discussion you would have with the
Yeah.
director during the spotting session.
Yeah.
But having silence to let the dialogue come through, and then slowly bring things,
Yeah.
slowly bring ideas and music in.
And it also makes those moments after the silent have even more impact as well. Um,
Exactly.
and even the bits that you did have music in the dialogue, it respected it enough that it didn't make it the main focal point. And I think you did that by the register that you put it in as well, because it wasn't in the same register as the dialogue as well. And that's one thing that's overlooked as well in terms of that. And yeah, I'd say that QTube is a great resource for anyone who's looking.
Shout out to Brian.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Brian. And it's just crazy to see how that's come, really, because I think I sort of stumbled across it. I think I ended up watching someone's entry for like the spring contest, and sort of investigated in further, and then it just went from that. But it's a great resource, and it's a great way to meet other people as well, because there's all these Discord servers as well that they have. So many different groups. I've had to I go on it sort of every month to sort of catch up, but it's not just a case of chatting. There's various groups where people share questions and new things that people have learned, and yeah, it's just a really nice sense of community in terms of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one thing that I struggled with when, you know, when I was just starting out composing for film, was finding material to compose, well, films to that could rescore, that I could use as a resource. And I remember, I think the QTube came up on my kind of radar around 2019, 2020, I think during the pandemic, when everything was kind of shut and we were just kind of stuck to our homes. And you know, the QTube kept me actually sane, because I could, you know, transfer all my feelings and everything into my music, all my emotions into music, and that was brilliant. And you know, I can't recommend QTube enough, because there's a plethora of different different resources that you can use. And I think for a film composer, or aspiring film composers, for younger generation, I think it's so important to have that, because they can practice, exercise. It's a great resource, and I think
it's a range of different clips as well. It's not just a particular type. You know, there's action, and there's a romantic scenes, there's adventure and bits of thriller and whatnot. I think the one that I did was like Goodbye Brother, which was more like a suspense thriller, and it was burying someone, and it was this kind of story behind that. And I think when I did it, I took a very soundscapey kind of approach to it, because I didn't want there to really be like there was a melodic idea as such, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to make it very soundscapey, and it can mean that you can mess around with things that you wouldn't normally mess around with, because I think I used a lot of like the Brunel loops from the Albion library from Spitfire, so it's a lot of sort of various atonal sounds and whatnot. But I think with these clips that Brian's put together, you'll end up experimenting with instruments that you might not normally use, going out of your comfort zone, which in the end will make you a more rounded musician as well.
Exactly.
Especially, and I know we've talked about so much here today. It's just
where'd stop.
it's just we keep going down all these little like rabbit holes and whatnot, and I could be here all day and talk about music, but I just want to say again, I really do appreciate you taking the time to speak to me and speak about
Thank you, Sam.
your life and your music, and it's just it's such a interesting journey to see what you're going on, especially with your Instagram stuff. I'm so excited to see where that's going, and just in terms of seeing that growth and where you go with these piano reels, and hopefully you do another series of that, because there's a great.
Well,
and hopefully
now that you mentioned it, now
you
I'll
need to
probably
make a
may
blooper
have
reel
to
as well.
now.
Oh
No, I said I can bleep everything now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely 100%. I know, and I do really appreciate all the advice that you've given out, and hopefully, people who watch this will be able to pick out little bits and whatnot. So I really do appreciate your time. Hi everyone, thank you very much for watching this month's episode of Musician's Corner. If you did enjoy this one, be sure to subscribe so you see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for all the support, and hopefully see you in the next video as well.